I'm Sasha Stefanovic from Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Brags in the Stands.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're picking ourselves off the mat and we're looking ahead towards the future. There was Sasha Stefanovic burying the game-winning three at Welsh Ryan Arena just a few years ago. Purdue will take on the Northwestern Wildcats next Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, just before the Super Bowl at Welsh Ryan Arena once again. So we're excited for that game. And the last 7 games to go for Purdue. Excited to be joined by our special guest here this afternoon, Sasha Stefanovic. He'll be joining us in just a few moments, all the way from Serbia. So, it's 3 p.m. where I live here in Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters. And it's 10 p.m. where he lives. So this was the one kind of time, during a weekend that we could fit Sasha to come onto the show, talk to him about what he's up to, in his pro basketball journey and some of his thoughts on this year's team. He certainly is keeping his eye towards what's going on with Purdue, as we all are. So I'm interested to hear, what he's doing. And I also know that he's, staying in touch with the guys, as a lot of these guys on this team are still his good friends. So, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. We're going to do our best to not sulk about yesterday's game. We did enough of that yesterday afternoon after the game on the post-game show, which, you can go back and watch anytime you guys like. If you want a little therapy session where we broke down kind of what went wrong and some of the silver linings around the loss against the Indiana Hoosiers yesterday. But, anything that you've got, Craig, as far as your thoughts after an hour, or, a day to kind of get over it and sleep on it?
Yeah, well, first of all, those of you guys tuning in, it's great to see 31 of you out there. But hey, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's gonna make it pop up and show up for other Purdue fans out there, so they can join in and on the conversation with Sasha as well. But yeah, I spent last night listening to a lot of different shows, reading a lot of different articles. and I'm already over the loss. Like, the national narrative kind of is, yeah, Purdue lost, so what? They still got the best resume in the country. I'll be shocked if we're not still number one on Monday. I'll be shocked if we're still not projected as, if not the number one seed overall, still as a number one seed. It's a loss at our rival against a ranked team that went down to the wire. Move on. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to hang your head about, as we talked about yesterday. To fight back the way they did, it'd have been one thing to be punched in the mouth the entire game, but they didn't do that. They, as Purdue always does, and I think some of us felt, hey, they can still come back in this one. They did. They got it all the way down to 1, but maybe built themselves too much of a deficit to start. But at the end of the day, like I said, all their goals still right in front of them to win a Big Ten regular season championship and dreams of doing bigger things in March this year. So without further ado, we're going to bring on our special guest, which we're excited to talk to. And I know a lot of the people in the chat are excited to hear from as well. So we're going to start him off with the most predictable intro for Sasha that he'll ever have here, because he's always going to get it, because I want to play this every day, every year for the rest of my life. So here we go.
Comes in to Stefanovic. Down to 3. Down to 2. Stefanovic long 3. Oh! He got it in the head! We're tied! Oh, my! Sasha Stefanovic! From 30 feet! We're going over.
There it is. Still puts chills down my back, Sasha. Got to play it every time you come on this show. One of my favorite memories as a sports fan in the stands. Welcome back here to Brags in the Stands. Every time you see that, Sasha, what goes through your head? I saw you smiling backstage as we were playing it.
Nah, first of all, thank you for having me again. It's good to be back. But no, that was awesome. That's really one of the best basketball memories I've had, and it's really cool to always see that. So it's always nice.
Well, and our guy, Nick, he made the intro that we played for a long time here. He made that little highlight clip, and he does such great work too. So shout out to him as well. And then of course we have the Brags angle where you hear me scream like a little girl. That's the other aspect of this. That's my favorite. That's where I completely lost my mind. And that it's always fun to reminisce with that stuff, because that, in a lot of ways, we followed you through your high school career with Andrew Kennelly and Dom and all in the gang, Ken Decker. It was a lot of fun watching you grow up through all that, and then to springboard into Purdue and do everything you did at Purdue. 7th most threes in Purdue men's basketball history. That's certainly an amazing accomplishment. And now you're playing professional basketball overseas. So, what's that journey been like for you? This is your first year doing it. Everything you're doing over there. What how's everything going with you?
Yeah, everything's going well. It's it's interesting the way you put it like that. It's just it's a long journey of starting basketball from when you're little and everything, and you never really expect to be or to get to where you want to go and the goals and everything that you set. But it's really cool. It's really cool to be doing the thing that I've always wanted to do. And then, it's been great. This whole last year has been a lot of just cool opportunities that I've had to do things that I never really thought to do. But whether that's NBA workouts, summer league, going over here in Europe and stuff like that. It's been really, really cool, and it's been really, rewarding.
So you're in Serbia now. How's things? You had a game today. How'd you guys do?
Not great. No.
You didn't do great today. I mean, that happens, right? But this is you guys over in Serbia. Looks like you're having a lot of fun with this team. Just talk about the group you're with right now, and kind of learning how they play the game of basketball in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. It's been great. I really like this group of guys. The way this team is formed is it's a lot of young guys. So this team is really based on so put it in perspective. I'm 24 years old. I'm the second oldest guy on the team.
Wow.
which is crazy to think about. When I was in Greece, I was the second youngest guy. So, just the way this team's set up and everything like that, these are really young, stars in the making in Serbia, Croatia, we have some Croatian guys, Montenegrin guys, a little bit all over the Balkans, but really these guys are going to be the next, guys that are going to be playing EuroLeague or have a chance in the NBA or something like that. So it's really cool to be a part of this group of guys where, winning right now is like not the most important thing to this organization, but it's really just like developing you and, getting you better at basketball, getting you better, your strength or whatever it may be, just letting you, develop and mature at a younger age for these guys. But it's been cool. It's definitely different, the way they play and the style of play. It's a lot, it's not as many like athletic players and guys that are playing one-on-one and getting to the rim and everything like that. It's more tactical, I guess, and just reading defenses and how people are playing against you and how you want to attack, certain, ball screen coverages or defenses or something like that.
Well, that's gotta help you, right? I mean, coming from Purdue, where you guys don't necessarily Jaden Ivey, of course, and Carson Edwards certainly could do their one-on-one in their own right, but Matt Painter's system is predicated on tactical and having a million different plays. Ethan Morton was on this year talking about, he didn't realize how much Matt Painter had in his bag when Coach Shrewsbury left for Penn State, because Micah Shrewsbury called all the plays before, when he was here. So that's probably got to be an advantage for you, right? Having had such experience with such an extensive playbook at Purdue.
Definitely, yeah. And like Ethan's right, Coach Payne, he really helped me kind of develop that that mindset of like offensively, like learning how to attack certain things and learning what works and what doesn't and everything like that. But I would go up to Payne's office my last year, and he would have just dozens of we call them ATOs, after timeout plays, just on his his wall, and it's just him just working out plays and everything like that. But it's really cool to have that perspective, because going into this, it is a little bit similar. It's more of plays and set plays, and like I said, how to read defenses and everything. My team here, we're a little more up and down. Our coach likes to do a little more transition, but it's very similar. You like to slow the game down and attack a defense where they're the weakest. So
yeah, it's good to see you again, Sasha. My brother's lived over in Europe for about 20 years now and really kind of watches and stays up on some of the different European leagues over there. And we were visiting last night about it a little bit. And one of the things that he brought up was just how physical some of those European leagues are. And I was just kind of curious of your thoughts of the physicality over there compared to like Big Ten basketball.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's similar and yet different. Like the physicality of the game, I think, is more or less the same. I think people, if you're going in the paint or something like that and you're going up for layup, like you're going to get hit, coming off of screens and everything like that, people are always going to bump you. There's a lot of similarities in that sense. But the one difference that I noticed while being in Europe compared to college basketball and just basketball, in America in general, is they love using fouls. And like in the States, at least for myself at Purdue, like in college, it was like, it's for myself. I did everything in my possibility, in the game to not foul. And that was a big thing for me. I'm like, don't foul. You get taken out of the game. Your minutes are going down. You can't, contribute as much. But here, it's the opposite. Like, if you are slightly beat on a play, or if we have some type of disadvantage, coaches are screaming at you to foul, like foul, like hard foul or something like that. So it's
strategical.
It's a little different, because like if you notice, like in games, like Coach Payne never wants anybody in foul trouble. Like the minute like one of the bigs that's how he's done it. The minute one of the bigs gets one foul, they're usually out, just because you want them to not have foul trouble. And it's the flip here, it's really interesting.
And now, how many fouls do you guys get over there? Because you only get 5 playing college.
Yeah, it's five here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe different leagues are different, but it's same in mine.
Same
Right.
amount of minutes too.
We play 10. Well, we play 10-minute quarters, 4 quarters. Yeah, so
Okay.
same,
Yeah.
but it's quarters.
Okay. Andy Rathjen's in the chat, a good friend of mine and a good friend of yours. Greg's, he said, let Sasha know that Colton is watching, one of your biggest fans out there.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone tuning in and joining us here for shaking the dirt off after yesterday's game.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about how you came from Greece to Serbia, is there any, I watched a few of your games in Greece and I was just fascinated by the atmosphere. This is a fan in the stand show, and hearing the fans singing like the entire game, like a soccer match, just atmosphere wise, when obviously there's a big difference between, Mackey, which is in a place like Assembly Hall, which is raucous, going to Greece, which seemed like it was crazy, even though the crowds are a little smaller. What is there any difference between the atmosphere? Because I haven't had a chance to watch you play in Serbia yet, other than a few clips here and there that I see on Instagram.
Yeah, it's really unique. So since, like you said, like I've been really grateful to play in the best environments in college basketball. It's crazy fans or whatever it may be, but there's a level of there's a level of craziness here that is not the same in the States. Like, they truly are obsessed with their certain team. So like today we played one of the best teams in Serbia, Partizan, and we played at home, and our stadium was pretty much sold out with all of their fans, and they're chanting their stuff, their things and like that. But it's crazy. When I was in Greece, the same, I was able to play in Panathinaikos and some of these bigger clubs against there, and their fans are just like a different level of like loud and love chanting, singing. There's a really big sense of pride where they really enjoy cheering for their team. So it's really cool to see. I really enjoy it. It's fun to play in.
Now that you're over in Serbia, kind of with your background and heritage before you moved over there, how comfortable were you with the language? Was that something you grew up speaking at all or not?
Yeah, so my dad is from Serbia, moved over when he was younger, and then my mom is our side of the family is from Macedonia, but she was born in the States as well. So, we always grew up speaking English, and I'm not the best at speaking. I understand more than I could speak, so it's not difficult, I would say, but it's not like the easiest. I'm still learning as it goes, but it's a good place to learn, so I'm getting better at it and just trying to soak up as much as I can. But it's cool to be, in the country that my family came from and playing basketball in the top league and everything, and it's a cool opportunity.
And did I read right that your dad was the first player drafted from that came from the original Yugoslavia?
Yep, my dad, first player born in Yugoslavia to be drafted and then NBA draft. So he likes throwing that out there every once in a while.
Well, what players have come from there since? Because we were trying to talk about this, but obviously there was a change in what the original Yugoslavia is to Serbia. But what players came after him?
So I think my dad is around the same age as Divac. Back in the day with Yugoslavia, like Dražan Petrovic and Stojakovic and like a lot of those players. But my dad was just technically drafted just before all of them. So he claims the first spot, so he gets to brag about that.
Yeah, and we got to give Mama Stefanovic a shout out. She's in the chat, so Helen's our favorite over here too. So appreciate you tuning in, Helen. And not to embarrass you too much, but we had to. So we have a question in the chat from Jeff Parks. He said, do you have the means to stream Boilers games? I mean, we see you on Twitter making comments, so assuming you still get to watch a handful of these games.
Yeah, so I've been my brother put me on with like VPN thing over when I was in Greece, because I'd never like had one, and I was like trying to figure out how to watch games and everything. But he sent me like a thing for a VPN, which is, I don't know if it's like technically okay or anything like that. But it's been helping me because I've been able to watch like a lot of just a lot of different games like ESPN. Like they don't have ESPN here, so like it's nice to just switch that on and then I could watch any ESPN games and Fox. It's nice. I just kind of piggyback off my family's like Comcast Xfinity thing, so I just stream my own over here. But I'm trying to find any way around it. But what I've been doing too, I mean, I'm still like, I still in communication with the staff and everything at Purdue. So I still have my Synergy account from when we're able to watch film and stuff like that. So that's how I've been watching. If I miss the game live, I'll go back and watch it through that, which is really nice.
You're breaking down film still for the Purdue Boilermakers, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we had Ethan on and you were pretty close with Ethan and Zach, maybe to transition to Purdue stuff unless Craig has any more stuff from, his pro ball that, journey. Obviously I think a lot of Purdue fans would certainly want to hear what you have to say. Because the one thing that stood out to me in your career at Purdue was Matt Painter said multiple times in press conferences that you could have coached the team. And I think that's a pretty profound statement from a coach that doesn't give out compliments. I mean, he's not opposed to giving out compliments, but to say something like that, he's not blowing smoke. So you certainly have a good eye for, what needs to be done on the court. When you watch some of your guys, some of you guys that are friends and some of these newbies to the team, these freshman dynamics. What are your thoughts as far as how this team has come together? Because I think a lot of Purdue fans thought this might be a little bit of a rebuild year, so to speak, as far as where their standing was in the Big Ten. And then all of a sudden they find themselves back at number one in the country with all the pressure that you guys had to deal with last year as a team. And, exceeding a lot of Purdue fans' expectations. What has been your observations of that so far?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think it obviously shows how good of a coach, Coach Painter is and the staff and everybody involved. And to just, funnel in new players and new freshmen and guys that have been there before and make them gel really quickly and, to have such success that they've had this year. But I think the players are just so competitive. I think if you really you look at the guys that are playing well and playing a lot, how many of them have won things, whether it's be high school or in college now, or had some type of success at a certain level, and it shows. Like you have guys that have been really competitive and really want to play and want to win and have that drive and hunger for it. I mean, I think if you asked a lot of people, just in the general population, did you see Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer starting and playing and having such an impact on a team this year? Like, no. Like the majority of fans and people that aren't inside the building are going to say, no, like, redshirt candidates or this or that, something like that. But you don't know how competitive they are. You don't know the makeup of them and what they're capable every single night. And I think that really shows. And I think that those younger guys have elevated the program to have everybody else step up and everybody be competitive. And it shows. Everybody wants to be playing more. Everybody wants to have an impact. And now you have another 10 guys that could all play 30 minutes if you really needed.
Sure.
Yeah. As I don't know if you got to see any of the press conference clips yesterday, but having been around Zach and now seeing Zach grow into this role that he's in, but also grow into kind of a role as a leader. In that press conference yesterday, they asked Braden Smith about the final turnover down 3, and Zach grabs the mic and takes it and was like, let me address, that's one play. I made mistakes too, other people. Is that something you saw Zach growing into, or is this kind of a new role for him, you think, this year?
It's a good question because I never really saw him as that lead by, speaking or something like that. He's just such a good player, and his actions and what he does on the floor that he's almost followed by example. You know what I'm saying? So he's one of those guys where you see him put in the work every single day, put in the extra time and the extra work for himself to be the player he is today. And then you want to do the same. You want to follow him in his footsteps and everything. But he has developed himself into such a good, leader and captain or whatever it may be of this team, that now he's able to do that and feel comfortable where he's able to, lead with his voice and say things like that. I don't know if he necessarily likes, wants this out there, but, he called me when I was in Greece about a month before the season started and was just worried. Like, he was like worried about the team. He's just like, I just don't know if like where we're at compared to, the other teams. Like, he's like, I don't know if we're like, on pace to being, once the season starts, like, are we going to be good? Are we going to, have an imp? Like, are we going to have success? And I told him I felt very similar before. You get in the summer and the grind of fall and those dog days of practice where you just don't know if like you guys are beating up on each other all day, every single day, and you don't know if you're better than certain opponents. But just that willingness to want to reach out to people that have been in a similar role that he was in is just showing that he wants that role and wants to embrace it, which is it makes me glad to see that he's doing everything he can to help the team win.
Well, and the one thing, obviously Zach's play is the first impression you get, or I got when I watched him freshman year, when all those freshmen came in and kind of took the world by storm with Purdue. But he also stuck up for you at one point, Sasha, when you got a tough question about missing, a bunch of shots in a game. And Zach does kind of take exception to those moments, and you can kind of see it on his face. Like he's got this side to him, like very defensive. And, I can remember saying like, when he said that, it made me want to run through a brick wall because he just likes watching a guy like that stick up for his teammates. And now he's just molded into this leader where at one point it was reported that he called once they hit number one in the country, he texted everybody on the team and said, we got to keep our focus and we got to, not get too high on this. We've got a lot of work to do. How obviously you got to think everything you guys went through last year as a team taught him what he needed to do and prepare himself for this year too.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's just one of those things where it helps you, learn what went right, what went wrong, and I don't think necessarily what we, last year, in a sense went wrong, but there was times where, maybe it could have been more, focus and things like that where, just worry about one game at a time and just chip away. And instead of looking at certain, further goals or anything like that, I think he's doing a good job as a leader this year of just, reminding the team, one game at a time and just continue to get better, continue to work every single day, and good things are going to happen. And I think that's the right approach to it. And I think he's done a great job as a leader this year. And obviously you see with his play, and he's doing all the right things, and I think he's going to be National Player of the Year for a reason.
Right. That's what I wanted to ask. He's beyond the leadership. You say you think he should be National Player of the Year. I mean, what have you seen as far as his improvement from this? Because I feel like every year he's had steady improvement, but it kind of goes underappreciated because he makes everything look so simple. What kind of improvement have you seen even from last year to this year? Obviously, he's getting more minutes this year, and I think he's had games where he had like 37 minutes in a overtime game. Unbelievable for that kind of size. But outside of obviously more minutes, what have you seen from his improvement in his game just from last year to this year?
Well, I think you said it with the minutes. Just he's in such better shape. I think just by visually, like him running on the floor, his constant, like you see in that video there, his constant like attempts to seal people in the post. His sprints into ball screens. I think that he's done a good job of like not walking into ball screens and like letting the defense set up kind of against whatever they want to do. I think he's he's just much more urgent. And like when I I'm here with my girlfriend. We were watching the game last night, and I always would tell him, you get in the post, go right away. Like don't wait on a double. Like you don't need to wait on the double. Like you could just score at any time that you want. So once you get it, just go. And I think he's doing a really good job of that, where he's beating double teams by just going fast, but he's under control. And it's a simple hook or anything like that he's just not I don't know, he's just not, he's not rushing it, but he's not also embracing that double team. He's just getting it done all over the place. He's been tremendous. I just like love watching him. He's just dominant. Like his activeness on the boards, like you literally can't box him out. It's crazy. Like I've never seen something like this where like every shot that goes up and is a miss, I'm like, he's got it. Like it's crazy. So
yeah,
he's great.
He's been unbelievable. We've highlighted it a lot on this show, and it should be something that shouldn't go underappreciated. Like I say, he dropped 31 or something yesterday, and he makes it look so simple at times. But you haven't seen a dominance like this in a long, long time. Obviously, Zion Williamson was a generational talent, but he was only there for 1 year. Yeah. This guy's a junior who's doing playing not just so dominant, but very smart. Making the right pass, the right read, not forcing to get a rebound to get his numbers. He at one point said this season, I don't care if I get the rebound as long as we get the rebound. And, that's something, there's something to be said for that, for a guy that, is fighting for National Player of the Year. And yesterday, I think he did cement that, as great as Trayce Jackson-Davis has played, especially here in the last, 6-7 games for himself. Zach Edey then proved it in the second half. Like, okay, you're very good. I am on a whole nother level of greatness. That's pretty cool to watch. Go ahead, Craig.
And to piggyback off that a little bit, in terms of changing his body and just being in more shape, a lot has been made about his skill development from when he first was there as well. I want to take you back to the first day you played with Zach. And if somebody would have walked up to you and said his junior year, halfway through this season, he would have locked up National Player of the Year, what would your reaction have been?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty insane to think about, like that whole process of that first day. Because I was just talking about it like last week, or the last game that they played. And that first day that he was on campus and we played open gym, he was, I don't even know the right word. Like he wasn't great. Let's just put it like that. Like he, and it was difficult because he literally just got out of the car from a 10-hour ride from Toronto. He was still moving all his stuff into his apartment and everything like that. And he was just like, a little frazzled and everything, had to go straight to open gym. So, but from that day to where he is now is just, it's literally a totally different player in person. I think that if you see his work every single day and what he does before and after practice, I think everybody would understand why he is in the position he's in to be National Player of the Year, if that makes sense. I think, early on, I think that he, I thought he's been a hard worker since the day one, but I thought, he didn't understand exactly what it took to be that guy. And then with Coach Brantley, I think they made this habit and everything that they do every single day, whether it's jump hooks or, working on different things, to see where he's at now compared to that day it's totally different. It's honestly really cool to see.
Yeah, it's been incredible and a lot of fun.
And in terms of like I said, in terms of him in like shape, like that first day, like and it was just coming off of COVID, and it was just like, that was like nobody could really do anything, so nobody was really in shape. But like he, especially at that size, like he just wasn't in shape yet to play at a high level. And then he's just continuously worked every single day, and you see it year by year. He's just gotten, through massive improvements, and now he can play 40 minutes a game.
Yeah, Michael Gordon in the chat said, I wonder how many calories he eats a day. Now you were around him, Sash. Like, This dude, you go out to dinner with him. He's getting 2 dinners.
Listen, like I've been around some 7'4" dudes in my life at Purdue, and every single one of them, I've never seen people eat like this. And like, they eat like 2 Chipotle burritos like nothing. Like, they're just inhaling in one sitting. Like, I'm like, you guys are crazy. But all of them, like Isaac was like that, Matt was like that, and Zach's like that. Like, it was, I don't get it.
Yeah, you gotta feed the horses. As they say. So let's move on to some of the other guys, around the team. I certainly want to get your thoughts on Fletcher Lawyer. But I want to go to Ethan Morton first because again, another guy that I feel like you were very close with last year. And Matt Painter said after the Penn State game, when somebody asked him in the post-game presser, like, hey, how do you think it's been, your thoughts on Ethan Morton accepting his defensive role on this team, knowing the pedigree that he had coming in from high school? And Matt Painter said, well, intelligent people figure it out. And, it was and Ethan even admitted when he came on our show that it took him a little bit of an adjustment to accept that this was the role he was going to play with Purdue. Maybe he had bigger goals in mind. How do you think watching Ethan's maturation process has been in the player he's become on this team?
Yeah, you're right. When coach says that, it's true. Like, he's such a smart player, and I think that's like his best asset is his IQ of the game. I think he really knows everything, the ins and outs of the game, and it takes you a while in our system to learn, like, just everything. And his ability to play positions 1 through 4 is such an asset on any team that that needs a player like that. And I wish that he sometimes is more aggressive offensively. I think he has the capability to be a great scorer and great shooter and everything, and I want him to shoot more. I'm always yelling at the TV for him to shoot more and everything, but his willingness to be that defensive anchor on this team is like it's so great to see. That's another thing of him stepping into more of a leadership role and like follow or trying to lead by example and saying that if I could do this, everybody else could do this as well. And I know he really wants to be on that all defensive Big Ten team, and that's like a thing that he's been like really doing everything that he can to have people see that he's a great defender and he wants to guard the best player every game. And I think you've really seen that this year, and he's done a great job. It's cool to see.
He certainly deserves it. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I just switching then to Fletcher and Braden, and then maybe if you want to piggyback on that, Greg. But I started to hear rumors a month or two before the season started just about how good those two guys looked early in practices and whatnot. But the first thought that popped in my head was still, everybody says Painter has like 800 plays. Mm-hmm. And like, how are those two guys going to be ready as guards that are going to be controlling the offense, especially Braden? How are they going to be ready that quick? And I guess just maybe speak to, from your experience of having to learn that playbook and everything, like, I imagine that had to be incredibly difficult for those two guys. And it's impressive that they picked it up as quick as they did.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard. Like, it's really, really hard. I think, like I said, like, it took myself that whole redshirt year to like fully like grasp what we wanted to do offensively and defensively, and like what it, how we were going to win games and everything. But like Coach Painter said, like, intelligent people figure it out, and those two come from basketball, minds and families, and they're so, like I said, like, they're so competitive that they're gonna figure it out. That's just the type of people that they are. And you see, like, they're not afraid from day one. Most freshmen, when you step into that, step into the game or step into some type of role or whatever, you're kind of unsure of yourself. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to, you don't want to do the wrong thing and get your minutes taken away or whatever it may be. You always want to try to impress coach or whatever. But those two have just stepped up and just shown that they're going to be great players for, the next 4 years and have a huge impact on Purdue basketball. And it's, I really love watching both of them. I really wish I got a chance to play with Braden. I think he's a great point guard. I think he's like exactly what everything Purdue is, and I think he's a great player.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the first things that jumped out to me. Just, obviously always being in your corner and thinking in terms of how you fit in different things, watching Braden play and the way they moved the ball to start the year. And he, as great of a 3-point shooter as you were always a guy that was a willing passer, a guy that would pass up a good shot for a great shot, as Matt Painter taught, and so I just think that this team has really embraced that all the way across the board, 1 through 10. And it's a lot of fun. You can see Matt Painter on the sidelines, like licking his lips at times, just because he knows that these guys are really buying into everything he's saying. And it's a thrill for Purdue fans to watch. And I think even if you're not a Purdue fan, you know me, I always go over the top with my assessments or predictions. But like at the beginning of the year, when they beat Duke and Gonzaga and the way they played in those games, I was like, this is like the Golden State Warriors, not in the greatness of, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but the unselfishness and in the ball movement and just the symmetry and the basketball poetry that it feels like you're watching just as a basketball fan. Like I said, even if you're not a Purdue fan, is that something that you get a sense of when you watch these guys play?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, would you rather score 30 points on a 500 team, or would you rather score 5 points a game on a team that has a chance to win the national title?
Right.
It's like it's the sacrifices that you make. Like if you want to shoot the ball and have the ball in your hands a lot and do everything, like I understand. Like I get why people would want to do that. It's very fun to shoot the ball and score and everything like that. But if you are truly wanting to win with your teammates and have an impact at a university that values winning, but it also values, teamwork and togetherness and whatever it may be, I think that Purdue is obviously the place to do that. And I think you really see that this year, that you could sacrifice your role and still have massive success. And I think like everybody has decided that this year on this team, like that's the way to go and that's the way to do it. And, hopefully they continue to do that for the rest of the year, because it's been working,
And I think that was highlighted with David Jenkins, who we had on last week.
Yeah, exactly.
And he gave a great interview. I think you'd really like David. You guys probably haven't crossed paths, but
what's super ironic is one of my teammates here in Serbia is another American kid, and he grew up with David, like they're friends.
Okay,
it's just super random. Like he's like, hey, I think he said you went to Purdue. He's like, yeah, my boy David's there. So it's been cool to hear his perspective on things too, because he's known him as that scorer, like shot at a bunch in college, was a great 3-point shooter and everything. And now he's here and he's accepted a role, and he's been great in his role. And you see like his impact on games where he's able to make shots like he did last night in the game against Michigan State. I thought he's been great. And obviously his veteran presence on the floor as well. He's played a lot of games. So it's been cool to see. I really like watching him.
Yeah, well, he said on our show, like, well, I expected to start. And he was like, then a couple weeks in, I saw Braden Smith. And he was like, oh, okay, here we go. I got some competition that maybe he didn't realize he had. And he said, like, what you just said, like, what would you rather put up all the points but not be? He's like, I'm on the number 1 team in the country. He's like, and that's what's important to me. And being, having been through the different schools that he's been to get to Purdue, I think he appreciates finding a place. Because the other thing he said was, we all hang out together, which isn't something he took for granted, because not all teams do that. So, he's found a team with unity that they all want the best for each other. And he said, he's taken Brandon Newman under his wing, and, he's not worried about, the personal accolades. He wants to try to win a national championship. And I think that speaks to the culture that Matt Painter and the coaching staff has built here at West Lafayette.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And you see a guy that's like, that has been in different places now, like him, and you see what works and what doesn't. And, you know, for himself, I don't know how many NCAA tournaments he's made or anything like that, but, you know, he clearly hasn't been on a team as successful as the team he's on now. And he understands that, okay, maybe I can accept a role, but to have, you know, the end goal, you know, hopefully your hand being raised at the end, I think that's something that shows to his like maturity and veteran presence as well.
Sure.
Yeah. Braggs knows I hate to get into comparisons of one year looking back to other years and that type of thing. But when you look at the metrics this year, whether it's Ken Palm or Haslametrics or anything like that, you know, offensively, last year's team and this team were both kind of top 5 offensive efficiency all year. But this year's group has been top 25 in defensive efficiency as well. As you've watched games, watched tape, like what's the biggest thing you've noticed that this group does really well defensively to also be a top 25 defensive team?
Yeah, I think that they do a good job. I mean, you know, obviously it's difficult to watch and not be there and hear, but I think the communication aspect I think is really good. So I think that, you know, defensively it's all about being tied together. So if, you know, Coach Payne always says, like, you know, you could have a great possession, one person messes up, you know, usually they score or something like that. Then you have 2 people mess up, it's always going to be a bucket or this and that. But when you have 5 people locked in and engaged and doing their job on the defensive end, it usually pans out. It usually works, you know. So I think that you see, you know, their ability to scramble and help each other on defense. And it's also a lot easier when you have Zach there as an anchor, you know, kind of cleaning up any messes that get made, you know. And but yeah, I think they do a good job of rebounding. We usually do a good job of rebounding and everything. But I think that like that cohesiveness on that end of the floor, I think that they've been really good at that.
100%. We had a question in the chat. Let me see if I can find it. From Blake Widmer. He says Rutgers and IU both had length and size at 1 through 3 that played very aggressively and in our faces. Is this the team's weakness, or how would you coach against that type of defense?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily the weakness. I think that, you know, it's just such a strength of ours at the 5, you know, that we're that much better than everybody at that position. But so it makes our 1 through 3 look like our weakness. But no, I think it's just that ability to handle that pressure. You know, that was our Achilles heel last year. So I think if you really noticed any of the games that we lost, that was anytime that somebody pressured us or got into us and made it super physical, like that was when we struggled. Rutgers made it super physical on us and it was hard to play against. And, you know, everything is predicated in our offense on trying to get inside touches. You know, and last year was a little different because we had Jaden and, you know, it was more of that kind of ISO flow, ball screen and everything like that. But now this year you see everything's kind of funneled towards that. And when guards aren't able to make catches on the 3-point line to make easier passes inside, it just makes your offense that much more difficult to start. So it's all about getting catches in places that you want to be. So we run a lot of, you know, pro style actions. We run a lot of box sets to get Zach, you know, inside touches and kind of beat the double teams, you know. But I think it's really important for the guards to just be able to handle the initial pressure and set up your cuts to run them into screens or whatever it may be, to give yourself any type of opening to be able to throw that pass or to be able to get your shot open or whatever it may be, because, you know, teams are going to be hounding Zach so much that you have to be able to be ready to shoot the ball or attack or, you know, I think the guards have to have that mindset of being on attack mode the whole time while always looking to pass, you know. So Coach Payne always calls it patiently aggressive. That's like kind of the thing that we talk about. It's, you know, always looking for your shot, but always making the right play at the same time. So I think those guards just have to handle that initial pressure and get to their spots on the floor. And then I think it'll, you know, our offense is good enough where Coach Payne calls good sets where it's going to work most of the time, even if we're not in our right spots.
And both of those teams too, Greg, everybody wants to point to the guard pressure, but West Virginia tried to do that to us. Marquette tried to do that to us. Florida State tried to do that to us. Like, don't forget those two teams also have Omari and TJD back there too that can make it difficult. Even though Zach got his points, they can make it harder on him to pass out, to get position, all that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
There's not too many of those guys out there outside of the Big Ten to run into, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. That is a good point because I remember like when we played Rutgers, and for myself, just saying last year, like I would have Caleb McConnell guarding me, and that on itself is like a challenge. Like he's a great defender. I don't know if he won Defensive Player of the Year, but he should have, or whatever it may be. But that alone is difficult to deal with. And then when I finally get a sliver of daylight to pass it inside, I see Cliff like hanging over the back of our big guys, and it's another added thing where it's like those guys. He's such a different player than Zach, where it's that sometimes could give Zach trouble, where it's athletic length, and sometimes it's like he can't use brute force against them to make his moves. Those guys are so much more athletic and kind of get around Zach and steal the ball and everything. So there's a lot of variables into it, but I think that's just kind of the biggest key is like setting good screens to get open and getting into our right spots where now the pressure, it's not as big of a deal because we're in a threat to make a shot or to get to the rim, and they have to guard you normal and not just get in your face,
Our guy Joe Jackson's in the chat. He's a co-host now with what we do on our post-game shows and sometimes on these shows as well. Really, really smart basketball mind. Him and his Aiden, who's the other co-host. They know the X's and O's in a way that I certainly will never understand. And he says Chicago action forever. So
yeah, we run so much things, and you know what's unique about Coach Paint is Coach Paint makes his own lingo for a lot of things. So it's like a lot of lingo is like different in a lot of senses. Like we would call one thing, I don't know. I don't want to give away any of his stuff. So we would call something
don't give it
thing,
away.
and then it would mean like a Spain action, which everybody else knows it as Spain action, but we know it as something else. Like really cool, like cool insight to like learn now, especially like being in different systems. I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. I'm like, I gotta like learn myself exactly what it is, but I'm like, oh, I do know. But yeah.
Well, it was really interesting an answer I got out of Matt Painter after the Penn State game, asking about the chess match between him and Micah Shrewsbury and their familiarity with each other. Mm-hmm. And he said that, Micah Shrewsbury knows about 70% of their out of timeout plays because they're plays he drew up. And he said where they got those from was from when Micah was in the NBA at Boston. Mm-hmm. And he asked Micah, okay, what were some of the most plays that you had the hardest time defending? And so he went around to 15 teams in the NBA and found plays that they couldn't stop and then just used those, and he kind of compared it to a defense lawyer versus, switching to the other side, and just trying to, understand the other side. Like if you're a defensive coach, how the offense is attacking you and vice versa. And that way of looking at it to attack how you want to call an offense. And I found that really fascinating, just to hear how they break those down and figure out how they want to draw up those plays,
It's so unique because like, that's something that I don't know if I ever want to get into coaching or I want to do something in basketball, and it's great to hear, and it's great to learn from those two guys. Cause it's like, I could see myself as something in that type of role and like offensive. I love offense. Like I love defense. I'm not very good at it. I think that's well established, but like, I love learning X's and O's, and I love learning like how to play against defenses and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see that how they went through the process of learning all that stuff to have the success like both of them have now in that department. It's like interesting to see.
Yeah, Christian asked that earlier in the chat, and I was going to bring it up later, but since you brought it up, is that's something that you're considering in your future, coaching?
I think eventually, I think that's something that maybe I could do. I told Coach Payne before I started like this professional career of I wanted to do maybe like enter in a front office kind of role within like some type of organization, like like an NBA organization if you're lucky to get there, or something like that. But because I like business, I like that stuff, and I kind of want to merge basketball as well. But the more and more I kind of like am in the game of basketball, I think that I could have some type of success as coaching in the coaching world. So I don't know. It's just it's a grind. You have to be, if you're going to be in it, you really have to be in it, not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So it's just something that I'm going to have to decide if I really want to do,
I mean, this is like a would you rather game. Would you rather get into coaching or be a star co-host on Boilers in the Stands, man.
Be a media mogul at the same time, you know. Never
You're
know.
always welcome here to have a platform. You know that, Sasha.
I love it.
Just a few more, because I know that it's coming up on 11 o'clock at night for you, and we certainly appreciate your time. Going back to the thought of, Ethan Morton and you as specifically as guys that found their way to getting as many minutes as they possibly, getting the most out of their career in college basketball, specifically with Purdue University. What would you say to people that are coming to Purdue basketball and how they can get the most out of their career by doing everything they can to get the most minutes from their coach?
Man, the recipe to success at Purdue is so simple. Like it's literally all you have to. I mean, you obviously have to have skill and you have to have talent. And Coach Payne's not going to bring you there if he doesn't think that you can have an impact, But if you do your job and you do, right things off the floor, like you're going to have success. Like that's just, it really is all it comes down to. I think if you look at players in his organization that have played, like a perfect example is Grady Eifert. Like he's not the most talented, he's not the most skilled player, but he did his job every single day to the best ability that he could. And by the end of it, he went to an Elite Eight, was captain of that team, won Big Ten title, 2 of them, I think, so like, when you get into college basketball, I think sometimes I've said this before, but sometimes you want all the success at once and you want everything to happen for you at once. And you kind of think like, if you're not having an impact right away, or if you're not having that same success as other players that you see on different teams or your own team or whatever it may be, like you kind of get discouraged. But if you just continuously keep showing up every single day and, deciding that I'm just going to do everything that these coaches tell me, I'm going to do everything that I can to work hard and, get extra reps or work hard in the weight room, work hard in the classroom or whatever it may be, like you have success. And I think that you see that like in a lot of players, and like myself, like I was like my redshirt year, I really struggled. Like I wasn't a great player. I wasn't able to have like an impact or anything like that. But in practices, I just tried to continuously get better every day and just listen to Coach Painter. And, he really helped me and just helped me grow and understand more on what he wants from me, to keep it simple and to not do things that are out of my skill set and everything like that. And, it helped me, and it helped me have a pretty decent career by the time I was all done.
Yeah, it absolutely was a great career, and following it personally was a thrill and a pleasure to watch. In my eyes, nobody worked harder than you, Sasha, and you deserve a lot of credit for that, and your family too, because I know that there's a big support system for you, and I think all of you guys kind of really just did a great job of pulling from the same rope to get you where you are today, and I think that's a testament to how every parent and every kid and everybody should approach life. And I know that that's one way that I certainly am going to learn from, to show my daughter, how to rise up in the ranks, because it's not easy, and there's a lot of different pressures, especially nowadays with social media and everything else. And you got a lot of distractions going on. So for you to be able to keep your focus and find your way and have the career and journey that you're living right now currently is a testament to your character. So a lot of credit to you. Craig, do you got anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one more question. In this age of NIL and transfer and the portal and all of that, if somebody called you up that was looking at going to Purdue, what's your pitch to them about why choose Purdue?
From a perspective of what you're saying,
not NIL. Like if they're thinking about transferring to Purdue, what would your pitch to them be about why be a Boilermaker?
Well, I think you ultimately see the success that we've had these last 2 years, for instance, of having one of the best teams in the country. But like, if you want to win and if you want to have that an impact on a team that has a chance to make it to a Final Four, win a national title, win Big Ten titles or whatever it may be, whatever your goals are, I think that Purdue is the right place for you. If you want to go make as much money as you can, if you want to go score as much as you can or whatever, maybe if you want to go to a nice warm school, wherever it may be, I think that that's not the place for you. And I don't think that's no harm or anything like that. If that's your goals, then that's fine. But I think if you want to have a place that sets you up for success after basketball, has great people around you every single day, the support staff, coaches, whether it be whatever school you want to get into, whether that's the business school or some type of medicine or any type of communications or whatever it may be, I think that all in all, I think Purdue University has everything that you need to be the most successful that you want to be. And I've met so many great people within my time there that have helped me within basketball, but not only basketball, just, for my time in the business school, I was able to grab 2 degrees from one of the best universities, in the country. And a lot of great people helped me along that path. So I think if there was a recruit or something like that was deciding between schools, I think that's like the main pitch. It's just, what do you want? And if you want those types of goals, I think that's the place for you. I think if you want to have the most, fulfilled life after basketball, I think that's the place for you. So yeah, I would say that.
When you look back at your personal career at Purdue, we didn't want to bug you after the end of last year. I know it was a tough loss for all of you guys against St. Peter's, who was certainly a tough team. I mean, Matt Painter even credited them as being one of the toughest teams to guard Zach Edey. And he was like, their biggest guy is 6'8", 200, in soaking wet clothes. So, a lot of credit to them, but I know it probably wasn't easy for you to finish on that note. But just overall, looking at your personal career at Purdue and winning a Big Ten championship, getting to an Elite Eight, being the first, part of the team that was the first time ever #1 in the country in program history, being top 10 all year last year, just doing things to kind of elevate the bar of expectations for Purdue Boilermakers fans. When you look back at your career, I know it's very recent for you, but when you look back on it, what are your thoughts and everything that came with the program and being, a player underneath Matt Painter's coaching, presence?
Yeah, it's great to be as small of a part as I could ever be in Purdue program history. It's really, I'm really grateful that I was able to do everything that I've ever wanted to do in college basketball and do it at the place that I always dreamed of. It's there's a lot of things that there's ups and downs with everything. We had a bad year my sophomore year, and we were able to bounce back and play really well the next year. And there's like certain things that I'm really proud of within my time that it's helped continue this great program and continue the trajectory that they're on right now, and just continue to be great and have great players come in and want to be a part of this program and want to be, Big Ten champions, want to make Elite Eights, want to get over that hump and get to a Final Four, win a national title and everything like that. But really just want to have pride in being at that university and everything. So it's been great. I really, truly, like, that was the best 5 years of my life. I give, I am in forever debt to Coach Painter and the staff and all the people that helped me at my during my time. So it's great. It's great. I hopefully can come back one day and do anything that I could help the university or program or whatever it may be.
Yeah, well, like I said, you got a lot to be proud of it. And we're, for me personally and what we do here, we're forever in your debt, man. I mean, obviously a lot of people that know that tune into this show, we have a connection in a lot of ways. And watching you guys, through the high school ranks, and so those were some of the most fun years following the Crown Point Bulldogs. And then I was personally doing high school coverage at that time a little more than I do now. I still do it from time to time. And then I move up to college when you get there, and I dabbled in it, tried not to go too far with it because at the end of the day, just wanted to cheer for you as a fan, but always putting some kind of social media out there. You know me, I'm always putting some kind of hype video out for some players, so couldn't help myself. And I always appreciated your support, man. Never, you always were in my corner about stuff, and I never wanted to go too far with it. And it felt like you were encouraging me in some ways and not making me feel like I was overburdening what you were trying to do. And you know me, I'm always just trying to have fun and live in the moment, live for the experiences. So to be able to experience following and covering, to an extent your teams, and now we're full-fledged into this media stuff with what we're doing. We're transitioning this show in a lot of ways to calling it Boilers in the Stands, and that's a credit to what, just so people understand like what the heck we're doing over here at Brags in the Stands, and that's a testament to everything that all the support you've shown me personally. So we certainly appreciate it. And so now I'm with CHGO and a lot of that stuff. Like if I hadn't hit a eureka moment of, hey, I can put some highlights at a high school game and people will find it that they can't see, I don't know that if I would have ever figured it out to be covering the Chicago Bears, for a media company in Chicago. So for me personally, like everything I ever do, I'll never forget kind of what you did for me and people watching. I think I bring you up all the time. So, this is no secret to anybody watching the show, our relationship, but I appreciate it. And not to put you on the spot here, I could have told you that, in private, but I didn't want to put you on the spot right here. Cause you are a big part of what we do here.
Like I said, like I appreciate like as to be a small part of Purdue, like it's great to be a small part of your program and like their success as well. So
hey, we're doing big things here now. It's starting to blow up, doing post-game shows, a lot of people tuning in and stuff.
I love it.
I appreciate it. The breakdown, Joe Jackson, Aiden are as good as it gets with the X's and O's. And who would have thought, it all started, with, a guy not covering the not guarding the inbounds. Like, how did they just let you guys free release at 5 seconds on the clock and nobody guards the inbounds? What are they doing, Saj?
Still don't know why they didn't follow me.
That too. Yeah. Down 3 to send it to overtime. They could have just fouled.
Yeah. That was a bad one on their part.
Well, hey, good times, man. Obviously, you're no stranger to what we do here. So obviously going in the future, we'll bring you on again when you get some time. I know everybody tuned in, really enjoyed your insight tonight, but we'll let you get to bed. One last request, Sash, before you go. Like I said, we're transitioning. You did.
I'm Sasha Stefanovic from Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Brags in the Stands.
As I mentioned, we're calling our shows now Boilers in the Stands. And I do throw you under the bus because I got Ethan to say it.
This is Ethan Morton from Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Got him to get us a new one as we're transitioning a little bit in the name of what we do. And every time I ask somebody, ask him and David, I tell them that it took you 3 takes to do it. I think it was only 2, but I got to embellish a little bit just to throw you under to make them laugh.
That's
so
fine.
All right. So now I need you to do the Boilers in the Stands take. Can you do that for us before you get to bed?
We'll see if it's up to your standard.
You're on the spot for one take here. Ethan's going to be tuning in to see if you hit this. So I'm going to give you the countdown in 3, 2, 1.
I'm Sasha Stefanovic, former Purdue men's basketball guard, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Boom. All right. One take. See, it wasn't so hard. Appreciate you, Sash. Thank you again for everything, and catch you down the road. And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll be getting in touch with you after April, and we'll be talking about things that Purdue has never done or hasn't done in a very long time, but one step at a time, right?
Would love to see it. Yep. I can't wait for it. And anytime I'll would love to come back on. So
Yeah, we'll
Awesome.
get you on. I tried to get you in with Jared Wolbrin, who reached out after we did the Jared Harder interview of the Purdue manager, and he was great. That was Craig's idea, the man with the mullet, the mystery man with the mullet. And Jared was like, "Hey, I want to come on too," and I was like, "Go right ahead, Jared. Like anytime you want." But obviously your schedule being so late, and him with the coaching. So eventually we'll get you guys all on, and you can talk as much shit to each other as you want.
I would love it. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, well, we'll talk to you soon. Get to bed. Tell Angela I said hi.
I will. See you guys. Thank you.
All right.
See,
that is Sasha Stefanovic. Guy that nobody, I don't think, busted their ass harder to, everybody busts their ass hard to get to college basketball. So I'm not going to try to sell anybody short, but he certainly was one of the hardest workers I've ever seen personally. So shout out to him. And I know everybody in the chat really enjoyed it. Sandy Shinovich is in there, and I know she's a good friend, and everybody else that supports Sasha has always been in his corner. I mean, on his senior day last year, he had by far and away the most people there for him. Like it was enough to fill an arena almost with the amount of people that wanted to come for the senior game, which was IU versus Purdue. So not an easy ticket to get. Appreciate you, Joe Jackson calling Sasha the GOAT. He is the Crown Point GOAT. Now, me and Sasha are both born on the same day, November 29th, but I always joke with him, Joe, that he's the second greatest shooter in Crown Point history. And no, I'm not talking about Spike Albrecht, who also went to Crown Point. I'm talking about me. I'm the greatest shooter in Crown Point history. Sasha can take second. That doesn't mean he's bad. It just means I was that good. I was that dude, Craig. I'm just telling you. I got a picture in the other room. I'll go pull up. I was in Michael Jordan's basketball camp in 6th grade.
Wow.
And I was a sharpshooter back then, Craig. Like you talk about Larry Clisby bullseye. That's what I was doing. I was pulling up from half court before it was cool. All right. Steph Curry ain't got nothing on me. I used to pull up from half court at Porter Lakes Little League, and the coaches would be like, "No," and then it'd go in, and they'd be like, "All right, nice shot, Greg."
Right.
But then I'd miss a good share of them too.
I think I'd have to see it to believe it,
oh man, I got video because they gave us a VHS. We'll bust out the VCR and I'll show you what I was all about. Now, I get out on that gym now and I'm not splashing anything, but Billy's in the chat. She's a good friend of Sasha's and mine, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. How you doing, Billy? And everybody else. Yes, we absolutely all miss Sasha playing at Mackey Arena, but definitely was great to get his perspective on this team. And he's certainly staying in touch with a lot of the guys. And like he said, he's even breaking down the tape a little bit. So it was cool to hear his perspective. Your thoughts, Craig?
I thought it was a great interview, and just to catch up with him. And, I'm always interested to see where these guys are and how they're doing and what's going on in their life right now. And then to be able to kind of share that perspective of the behind the scenes with Painter and for those freshmen, the things that they would have to do to be ready to go right now. And also the progression of Zach. And I just think, everybody we talked to that was there kind of says the same thing about how far he's come, both skill development and in terms of just fine tuning his body. So I think those were all great things to hear from him. I do have to say, you were telling him that you were going to use him as an example to try to motivate your daughter as she's growing up as well, to reach and try to grow. At some point, you're going to have to let your daughter know that he had the genetics of an NBA draft as a dad, and that your daughter doesn't.
Yes. Okay? Well, but at the same time, I mean, just his hard work and perseverance, and he's a great student too. Not to say that his parents weren't great students too, but my wife was a great student. I didn't go to class as much. So yeah, Edey's going to have some different obstacles. We're already realizing how much she's like her father so far. But I don't think that's a completely bad thing. It might not be the greatest thing for the classroom, but again, my wife, being the nurse practitioner she is, hopefully she gets that side of the discipline in the classroom and just in general, not even just to be an athlete, just to approach life. I think Sasha's always been a very mature young man and kid in high school. And I've always said, like, his parents, I think, are a great testament of how you should raise a family. And I think he himself is a great testament of how you should carry yourself as a kid nowadays, which isn't easy to grow up nowadays through high school with Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all these other things that I don't think are the greatest things for kids, to kind of lose their innocence way too early. And, he always was good about staying away from those things and staying focused on what he wanted to do. And that's certainly something I learned watching him that I'm going to take from, to apply to raising my daughter, Addison. But yeah, I don't know if she's going to be the 7th greatest 3-point shooter in women's Purdue basketball history, but we won't leave it off the table yet.
Never know.
You never know. You never know. So real quickly, before we get to some of our final thoughts, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at FanBags Cornhole. We've gotten a couple sponsors here going into this year, and I just want to make sure we give the proper shout out to them. Get everything going. And I would just like to say that Sasha Stefanovic interview was brought to you by FanBags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with FanBags Cornhole. There's our guys over at FanBag. Shout out to them for coming on board with what we're doing. And Michael Gordon is absolutely right. When I do that ad read, I try to, enter my Gene Honda voice, who actually was the PA announcer for the Big Ten tournament when it was down in Indianapolis the first year after COVID, when they started to let fans in, or he was the PA guy there. He's the PA guy for the Chicago White Sox for a long, long time, back when I was a kid in the 90s, and he would say, number 35, Frank Thomas. So that's my best Gene Honda impersonation right there. So yes, that's right, Michael Gordon. Make sure built-in handles, double thick legs, FanBags Cornhole. Make sure you guys go and check them out. They do great work. They're sponsored even by some of the best throwers on the professional circuit that you see throwing on ESPN and otherwise. So they have really, really, really a really good product. So go check them out and get yourself a set before springtime comes around, because it seems like we're almost through winter. I don't want to jinx it, Craig, knock on wood, but I'm looking down the 14-day, weather forecast, and it seems like we're starting to get close to those 50-degree days coming back, and some of those negative temps going away.
Yeah, it's 50 degrees now. It's absolutely beautiful outside. I'm sitting right in front of a window looking outside, being a little bit jealous of that sun out there right now. So,
well, we'll get back out there, wrap this up. Any final thoughts you have as far as, we'll get the wrap it up going. This is what we call the Midwestern goodbye segment of the show. Where I take forever to say goodnight to everyone. We went an hour and a half yesterday. We went an hour today. We had 2 post-game shows last week for Michigan State and Penn State. We did an interview with David Jenkins. So what are we up to? What is that? 5 shows in the last.
It's been a lot of content in the
5
last week or
shows
so.
In the last 7 days. We've been promoted on some of the biggest brands in college basketball. We've been on, Fox, College Hoops Twitter account with 800,000 followers, CBS Hoops college Twitter account with another 300 or so thousand followers, and even the Purdue Boilermakers Ball Twitter account was promoting our clips from last Sunday against Michigan State. where they're showing our clips of interviewing some guys from the Field of 68, who has also been promoting a lot of our work here in the last week. It was a very prominent college basketball podcast. Purdue even put out a hype video where they used the audio, Joe Jackson reading off the decibel count from last week when David Jenkins blew the roof off Mackey Arena. So it's been a really exciting week with a lot of different things that we're doing here. We're starting to grow in a big way. We've added some sponsors, and now we get to have some fun the rest of the year with some big games coming up and a lot of fun coming up in March.
Yeah, it's going to be great going into the rest of that. This kind of finishing stretch down the line. There's some really good games coming up. A couple of really tough defensive teams that we get to play in Northwestern and Illinois that are going to present some challenges just for how they can apply pressure. Then we get the Big Ten tourney. After we win the regular season Big Ten championship, knock on wood, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. We get the Big Ten tourney and NCAA tourney, and it's just going to be a really good time to go cover some of those games, Greg, and excited to see what happens.
Yep. It is going to be a lot of fun, and I don't know how you feel about Tuesday, but it would be so IU to play Rutgers at Assembly Hall on Tuesday and lose to them. Nobody.
Well, and Rutgers punked them last time. They didn't just beat them. They beat them bad the last time they played.
Right, at Rutgers.
Yeah.
This year and last year, they got in a fight. Paul Mulcahy and them guys were getting in a fight when it was at Assembly Hall. So there's a little bit of a rivalry and bad blood forming. It's like Purdue and Rutgers playing. There's like this respect. And it seems like, I don't know if IU and Rutgers have that same respect.
No, they don't. Listen to Gio. They don't like. If you listen to Gio Baker talk, they have no love lost for IU.
And it would be so IU, like I said, and I was messing with IU fans a lot on Twitter yesterday. I was having fun with it. It was basically my coping mechanism was to just stir the pot with Indiana Hoosier fan base, who's very sensitive on social media. So I was putting some things out there I knew would get a rise out of them as far as who's the little brother in this rivalry. They are. And, obviously them playing in their Super Bowl yesterday was a big deal, and I'm happy for them. They earned that win. I'm not taking that away from them. But I did also make the observation that if IU just played every single team like they were playing at home against Purdue all year long, they'd be one of the best teams in the country year in, year out, because that was the one thing I didn't get to ask Sasha is like, it's just unbelievable to watch them every year when Purdue travels to Assembly Hall, and that first half is like this magnanimous explosion earthquake that you have to like try to call you. It's like everybody says, weather the storm. Well, this is like the most impossible storm to weather. It's just insanity in those first halves every single year. And then it seems like everyone settles down after halftime. And the other observation is just like, they play like they have nitrous, oxide or whatever, fueling them every time they play Purdue. And they play so inconsistently at times. And I know Indiana fans even pull their hair out from them. But then when they play us, they play like this golden goose of a team. And then on the flip side for Purdue, they're as consistent as can be. But then every time they play Purdue, IU, especially at Assembly Hall, but even last year at Purdue, it seems like everything tightens up in the rivalry for Purdue, and for Indiana, everything seems to loosen up. Isn't that's kind of a fascinating thing? At least it feels like that here in the recent future.
I mean, they lost 9 straight to us, so I don't know if IU fans are going to agree with you over the course of the last 12 games, but
sure,
certainly in the last couple. And I thought we handled our business fine last year at home even though it was closer than what maybe we thought it would be. IU kind of came back to, water finding its level in terms of offensively in that second half yesterday. And
yep,
I'd expect it to be a different story in Mackey personally.
Right. And like I said, I know no IU fan or no Purdue fan would ever say this, but if you're looking at the Big Ten picture, there's, every team but Rutgers have 5 or more losses in the Big Ten. And if Rutgers lose on Tuesday to IU at Indiana, there's our Midwestern goodbye, of course, then they are added to that list. And so, I don't know how you feel about that. To me, it's like a win-win. If IU loses, they get knocked off their high horse for a minute. But if they do beat Rutgers, it's not the worst thing in the world to happen for Purdue, because then you enter Thursday back with a 3-game lead, 3.5 game lead against everybody in the Big Ten with only 7 games to play. And, obviously I think it's nice that they get a few days to kind of refocus before they take on Iowa on Thursday. But I also think that cushion could also help, with some of the pressure that's now going to be coming down the pike, because they have some really tough matchups here to end the year.
Yeah. And, I'm always looking at the net too. Joe Jackson's favorite analytics, looking at the net, and we get to play IU again. And, quite frankly, the further up in the net they are, or in Ken Palm or whatever, the better it looks for us when we beat them at Mackey later on this year. And it protects that loss as a quad one. Well, it's going to be a quad one loss no matter what. So it's not a huge thing or necessarily a bad thing if they take Rutgers down, but I'm not going to actively root for them. That's for sure.
Yeah. And February 25th is when Purdue takes on IU at Mackey Arena, I believe is what they're saying. Yeah, we're in the midst of our Midwestern goodbye.
I'm gonna start the countdown again, Braggs.
Yes, Midwestern goodbye. Well, because the other thing too is, normally we pull up this picture is like it's Matt telling us, okay, we've covered it all. We did an hour and a half yesterday, and now here we are doing another hour and a half today. But some really good content overall in that interview. I think stuff that you could watch 2 months from now, and I think it still holds, a lot of water and worth your time, because I think Sasha has a really good insight on this program, and I like talking a lot of the big picture stuff with him. So I want to give a shout out to our guy, Sasha Stefanovic. Here he is holding the Big Ten championship trophy, and hopefully these guys this year get to hold one of their own. Give a big shout out to him for an hour of his time late in the night out in Serbia. Thank you again to Sasha Stefanovic for coming on. And thank you to all of our listeners and live viewers. Thank you for interacting in the chat with all the nice words and comments. Certainly helps with what we're trying to do here. And one more shout out to our guys at Fanbags Cornhole. Thank you for sponsoring us and everything we're doing here. So that officially wraps things up here tonight. Or today. No final thoughts. We'll save them for the week. We may do another show before Thursday. If not, we will be live for the post-game show following Purdue versus Iowa at Mackey Arena once we get into our stations. So thank you again for everybody tuning in. Have a great night, and always boiler up.